Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Crypto Watch. Hi, everyone. So, if you're here live with me, right, do click that like button, right, so that I know that you are here live with me. Right. So today we're going to talk about Bitcoin once again, and whether this is the bottom for crypto. Right. We have talked a fair amount right last week about the drastic drop that happened the previous week, and for this week that seems like cryptocurrency or Bitcoin has actually found a stabilizing point. So the question here is whether this is the bottom for crypto, right? And to do that, we shall look into what transpired for this past week and what is there to look forward to for cryptocurrency in the near future. Right, so for those of you who are streaming in, right, do click on that like button so that I know you are here live with me. All right, and let's go on to the session proper. Right, so once again, right, for those of you who are just joining me, who are streaming in, right, do give this video a like, right? All right, and as always, let me first give a brief introduction about myself. So I'm the trade engineer, TTE for short. I have 6 to 7 years of trading experiences, and I've traded numerous instruments such as stocks, futures, forex, and crypto, right? And help numerous aspiring traders unlock their best trade and unleash the trading potential within them. All this using just some simple yet effective techniques. And some disclaimers down here, right, before we start the session. While the accuracy information ensured as far as possible, right, there'll be no responsibility taken for any loss of inconvenience created by any omission or error. The ideas presented today are just for reference and educational purposes only. Presentation today is also not intended in any way to give trading advice or recommendations to buy or sell any trading instrument. And me, the trade engineer, shall not have any liability, right, for any loss or expense whatsoever. And last but not least, all copyrights reserved. Right, and with that out of the way, let's move to the session proper, right, on Bitcoin. Right, so whether this is the bottom for crypto, right? And to answer that, let's look at the Bitcoin price chart, right? So the Bitcoin, being the leader of all the cryptocurrency, it is a good indication of the cryptocurrency market. And this is the latest Bitcoin price chart, right, on the daily time frame. And you can see here I boxed out this region, right? So this actually has the prices, right? The price action for the past week. And this is this day corresponds to 19th of June, right? So you can see, right, quite clearly that the Bitcoin prices, right, have been stabilizing ever since that huge drop down here, right, the previous week. And it has been, at quite a bad level over here, right? So what has happened and what's next? What's in store for Bitcoin, right, or cryptocurrency in the near future? So to answer that, right, let's look at some recent news surrounding Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So this is a article, right, a recent article taken 2 days ago, right, and it's actually posted on Bloomberg, right, Bloomberg.com. And over here, right, it actually talks about how the crypto liquidity troubles are actually spreading across other platforms. Right, so as you all know, right, there was this issue with Celsius, right, the Celsius platform, where users couldn't process their withdrawals, right? Everything was shut down, right? And this is actually has spilled over to other platforms as well. So in this week, right, we did encounter further news of other platforms that are also affected as a result. So first of all, there is this cable network, right? I don't know how to pronounce it, but basically it's KYBER network, right? It is a decentralized trading platform. And this company actually has a small portion of treasury exposed to this crypto hedge fund, right? Three Arrows Capital. That was what we mentioned as well last week. That Three Arrows Capital was also adversely affected by the whole crypto crash. Right, so this this crypto hedge fund, Three Arrows Capital, is actually a very huge hedge fund, and it has also brought down some companies with it, and in this case, this cable network might also be affected as well. Right, so this company, right, has tried to do the Three Arrows Capital, but as what mentioned here, there was no response, and they are intending to take legal action. Right, so if they can't get back their money, right, there could be some repercussions on this company as well. Right, and likewise, right, there is another news, right, of this firm called CoinFlex. Right, so CoinFlex itself, I'm not sure if some of you might heard of it, some of you might not, but basically it is another exchange, crypto exchange firm. And similarly, right, similar to Celsius, it has also paused all withdrawals on the platform. Right, and what is cited, right, the same reason: extreme market conditions and continued uncertainty involving a counterparty. But they didn't mention who this counterparty is. But that it isn't really looking good for this exchange firm as well. So this the good thing here, right, is that CoinFlex is not as big as Celsius. It is considered as a smaller crypto exchange and focusing mainly on derivatives trading. So if you look at the details of this crypto firm, right, it actually only supports 34 crypto pairs for derivatives. So as of now, users can't withdraw, right? They are providing estimated time of withdrawals of for 30th of June, which is coming soon, and let's see what happens when that date occurs. Right, and actually the next update is actually tomorrow, June 27th. So actually you might have an update on this on Monday tomorrow. Another firm as well, right? Not just CoinFlex, but Voyager, right? Another firm as well, Voyager, the crypto brokerage and exchange firm as well, is also limiting customer withdrawal. It's not limiting completely, right? This firm is actually limiting to a sum of money, right? 10,000 and to 20 transactions, right, during a 24 period. Right, so it actually has secured credit lines of 485 million, right, from this particular firm called Alameda Research, right, and it also has disclosed exposure, right. It has about 660 million in loans, that exposed to that Three Arrows Capital once again, right. So that's not looking good for this company, right. If it is if Three Arrows Capital is in problem, right, this Voyager firm might also be sunk with it. Right, so its shares actually also plunged this year as a result. And but there's not all bad news, right? There's this crypto lender called Nexo, right? And this Nexo firm has actually positioned itself to be immune to all these storms that are occurring so far, right? In fact, it has just tapped this Citigroup, right, for M&As or potential acquisitions. Right, it actually seeking advice from the bank, including liquidity restructuring deals, and it has made some unsolicited offer to acquire assets from that troubled firm Celsius, right? Although that didn't really come to fruition. So it is there are still companies that are tapping on this storm period, right? To actually emerge stronger from it. So it's not all doom and gloom, right? There could be silver lining on the horizon. Here we have another article, right, Guardian.com. So what it mentioned here, right, it also a business article on 24th of June, and what is mentioned here is that electricity used to mine Bitcoin actually plummeted, right? So as we all know, mining of cryptocurrency requires a lot of electricity, right? And the fact that electricity has plummeted, right, electricity consumption has plummeted, it kind of implies that people are not mining as much as what they used to do, Right. So over in this article, we delve into the details. Right. You also talk about the failure of Celsius as well as the three arrow capital. That has been the news surrounding the whole cryptocurrency world so far. Right. And multiple companies with substantial outstanding loans to three arrow capitals have to take emergency measures in turn. Right. So in addition to the companies that we talked about just now, right, this article talk about other companies that were affected, right? So this particular company called Finblocks, right? Finblocks was also affected, right? It's a hedge fund, and or rather, it's a company, right, that's affected by this hedge fund, and it actually had the effect on liquidity, right? Heavily restricted user withdrawal, and here this one also dropped the limit for withdrawal from 50,000 to only $500, and also stop interest payments on deposits. So you see a lot of companies, a lot of crypto firms are now limiting withdrawals as a result of the fallout, like for crypto. So if you are in some of the smaller crypto firms, be very careful, right? That could be this knock-on effect, right? And you also mentioned about Voyager, which you mentioned just now, right? That it is affected and couldn't withdraw, right? We couldn't withdraw money from it now, right? Another company, right? This is a new company called Bancor, right? Bancor, right? It is a decentralized finance protocol that acts as exchange. It also, right, has imposed withdrawal limits, right? CoinFlex was talked about just now, right? So you can see so many companies, are being affected as a result, right? As the fall actually seems to have continued in this week, right? With the smaller companies being affected, right? And but in all this, doom and gloom, or so doom and gloom, right? There is a company, right, that is bailing out other companies, and this is none other than the Alameda Ventures, right? That's what I was mentioning just now in briefly, right? So this company has actually built out Voyager, right, and the embedded exchange BlockFi, and it actually offered $1 million loans to both companies, right? So if this, if he has successfully turned them around, right, it could be similar to what happened in the past, right, where JP Morgan actually stepped in during the financial crisis in 1907, right? So this could be a similar case for the cryptocurrency world. Right, if we look at other headline news, right, in recent times, right, this was on 21st of June, right, from moneycontrol.com. And there are more companies, more crypto firms that are laying off workers. So we did mention about that last week as well. Right, so Coinbase-backed crypto firm, right? It's not Coinbase, but it is the company called Vault, VAULD. They also lay off a substantial amount of people, 30% of workforce, and it is looking at other measures to cut. Right, and there's another platform called Bitpanda, right? All these are smaller firms, right? Not as big as what we covered in the previous week, but nevertheless, you can see that there is that knock-on effect, to other smaller crypto firms. So this Bitpanda is also cutting staff as well, right? And in this article, it mentioned all the different companies, right, that have been cutting workforce, right? There are big names like Crypto.com, like smaller names like Bitso, BrandBit, BlockFi is quite pretty big. Coinbase is pretty big, right? So all these, variety of companies, big or small, have actually started to cut their workforce pretty significantly, right? What they share in similarities is that they're all dealing with cryptocurrency, right? And with this news of crypto liquidations, right? It has also made the DeFi world, right, also go to extreme. Right, so let me just zoom in here because this is a bit small. So there was this development last week, like on Sunday, and there were the token holders of Solan, right, a lending app on the Solana blockchain, right, actually voted to temporarily take over a large user account, right, because this large user actually faced large liquidation. But this decision was actually reversed right on Monday itself. But the fact that they actually tried to take over, right, that is something that is pretty new, that's not occurred before. And if that actually went through, that could actually be a precedent. Right, and this also took place after MakerDAO, an app that .dai is run by the crypto community, right, actually suspended the token from being deposited and minted in the DeFi crypto lending platform, right, AAVE, right. So, right, DeFi app, right, in which users can actually trade, borrow, and lend from each other without intermediate people like firms like banks, right, are actually suffering because they tend to be interconnected, right. Let me just do me a bit more, right, and troubles one can have, right, can have cascading effect on others. So users put up token as collateral, right, and that can trigger margin calls on collateral, and that collateral can actually get liquidated, right? And these bots, right, will actually jockey up to liquidate the positions because they can earn a bonus, but in so doing, right, you can also clog the blockchain with transactions. Right, so that's why that the DeFi communities are trying to come together and avoid this cascade of liquidations, right? Right, so a lot of these DeFi protocols are actually reducing counterparty exposure during these volatile times, right? And they are also valuing to make sure the apps don't get damaged, right, by bad debt. Because even liquidator cannot sell illiquid tokens, right, or the token prices collapse, right. These apps can actually end up being responsible for reimbursement. Right, so DeFi was also affected by Celsius, right? Let me just zoom in a bit. Right. Right. After Celsius Network and Weber actually, froze deposits, as well collapse of that hedge fund, the Three Arrows Capital, right, sent crypto prices, spiraling down is what we saw last week. And Celsius actually work with many DeFi apps, right? So with Celsius coming down, DeFi will also, the DeFi apps might also be affected as well. Right, so this is how crypto liquidations might make DeFi go to extremes, right, in order to actually make sure that they don't suffer as a result. And let's look at other articles, right? Actually, we saw that it is rather stable, right? But basically it actually bounced on the Monday, right? And basically ever since then it has stabilized there. Right, so this article, right, taken from decrypt.co, so it has talk about how it has made a sizable recovery among some top cryptocurrency, right, for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So in fact, right, this week was a relatively quiet week, right? Not many news as compared to last week. But this report actually said that crypto has two main flaws, right? One is a need for a nominal anchor and fragmentation, right? So what's these two, right? What is these two flaws all about? So the nominal anchor, right? Nominal anchor actually refers to stablecoin, right? Like your USDT as well as UST. But this existence of stablecoin actually indicates the pervasive need in the crypto sector to piggyback on the credibility provided by the unit of account issued by the central, right? So it's a bit of an oxymoron, right? That the cryptocurrency has to base on something that is issued by the central bank, right? And this report also argues that cryptocurrency has yet to change the central banks by providing a unique account for the economy. And a lot of people argue, right, that stable coins are not a perfect substitute, right? In fact, they are imperfect substitute for sound sovereign currency. And for the second point, right, on fragmentation, right, the abundance of various cryptocurrency, there are so many alternate coins down there, right? So that could actually lead to fragmentation of the cryptocurrency world. However, right, there is that right that's used in crypto, and with that, central bank digital currencies are using this blockchain to actually start developing their own currency, their own digital currency. Right, it also points to smart contract technology as one of the number of advantages, right? The transactions between financial intermediaries to go beyond the traditional medium of central bank reserve. Right, so there still seems that there could be potential for a rebound in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Right. So moving on, right? This article also mentioned that the US and the EU central bank, right, have also argued like for regulation of cryptocurrency. Right, this is not new. They have been campaigning for cryptocurrency regulation for quite some time now. Right, and if these actions, right, that could have some effects, right, on this whole cryptocurrency. Right. So there was this analyst, right, who also wrote in this report, if they actually if the players are forced to liquidate a considerable amount of these holdings, right, that could actually lead to Bitcoin price being pressured further, right, and that is from those like Bitcoin miners, right, such as Marathon and Riot, who actually sold more Bitcoin than they mined last month, right. So that is something that is right, because if that continues, right, there could be that selling pressure on Bitcoin in time to come. Right, and another article, right, this is probably the last article I'll go through, right, from CoinDesk.com, and this is basically the latest, quite a recent article, right, on Bitcoin hovering near 21K, right, as investors look to avoid another weekend slump. So last weekend, Bitcoin actually fell quite significantly, right? This weekend it was pretty stable, thankfully, right? So in this article, right, it mentioned, right, that there is this correlation between Bitcoin and stocks, right? There's this increasing risk of recession and poor corporate earnings can further affect stock prices, which have also been correlated with crypto prices. Right. So actually, one analyst say that it is too early to say whether Bitcoin actually stabilized. Fear has somewhat died down, but it hasn't disappeared yet completely. And in fact, right, the expectations for inflation now is lower, right? Based on what has happened last week. So that might be a faint sign, right? The US economy may be cooling, and the US may not have to raise interest rate as dramatically as expected. Right. So we have to bear in mind, right, that the movement of prices are increasingly correlated to Bitcoin. So those macroeconomic news that affects our stocks, right, might also affect Bitcoin as well. Oh, and there's another article here, right, that I would like to share with all of you. And this is an article talking about whether we should actually buy the dip, right? Because it is very enticing, right, to buy now when the prices are pretty low for in a while, right? We haven't seen 20K for quite some time, right? So in the article, right, it actually argues that Bitcoin is on a discount, right? It argues that it is undervalued. In fact, this JP Morgan, right, actually valued the coin at 38,000. Some would say that Bitcoin can be worth 100,000 in 2 years' time, right? And its fair market value is probably about 40K to 50K, right? So one analyst even say that it might hit 38K by the end of this year and 50K by the end of 2023. But another analyst says that it is a unique animal, right? Bitcoin, because it is difficult to say how much it actually worth, right? There is accelerated move on the upside because people are buying when they want it to go up in value, but when it goes down, big players exit, right? But in conclusion, he actually concluded that the price might actually go higher, right, to come. Right, but on the flip side, right, some other experts also think that it might drop down lower, right, at least in the near term, right. Some say you have crypto winter, right, where there's an extended period of prices falling, meaning low. In fact, they're saying Bitcoin could drop to 14K, right, 14K, now it's 21K. That's quite a fair amount to drop to, right. So it really depends on the time frame, right, whether it is talking about the short term or the long term, right. If you are investing, right, there could be some long term potential reward, but you might have to withstand that short term risk, right, that might occur in this immediate term, right. So that's something for you to take away, right. But of course, all this we should just take with a pinch of salt, right. These are just analysts that no one might know what will actually pan out in reality, right. So these are just some of their opinions, but they might not be right. So we should do our own due diligence as always. Right. So there's a quick background, right, of some of the recent news surrounding crypto for the past week. And at this juncture, right, I just want to urge all of you to actually like or love this video, right, if you are enjoying the sharing so far, right, just click on that like or love button, right, so that I know that you are finding value in my sharing so far. Right, and with that, with all the news, on the background, acting as the background or drop, right, let's look at how has Bitcoin performed for the last week, right? And to do that, let's look at the price chart, right? Or before that, right, let's look at a quick recap, right, of what I've covered last week, right? So this was on my TikTok channel, right? And I actually, it was also what I shared last week in my last video. So I mentioned these 6 things to watch for Bitcoin, right? So first of all, on the weekly chart, we saw this descending channel and the downtrend line. It was still trading below the downtrend line and within this descending channel. So it is can be said to be still bearish, right, in the mid to long term. The second thing was the horizontal support, right? It was testing the horizontal support, right? First level at 17,500 to 17,600. Right, if that breaks, we might be looking at second lower support. But if we actually bounce up, right, we could be looking at these horizontal resistance levels, right, with the first resistance at 28,000 to 29,000. Right, so that was what we pointed out last week, for some of the resistance level. And we look at frame, the daily time frame, right? We talk about the 50 SMA and the 200 SMA, right? And right, the 50 SMA are actually less than 200 SMA, right? So that could be a sign of continued bearishness, right? The price was also trading below both of them as well. RSI, right? RSI on the daily time frame as well. We talk about that, right? The RSI was on the over region, so there could be that bounce, that possibility of bounce up to to that horizontal line at RSI of 50, right? That's what I mentioned last week. Right, and the 6th thing that we talked about was the MACD on the daily chart, right? So it was negative at that time, right? So if we continue to be negative, right, it could be bearish, right? It could be bearish, but if not, it becomes less negative, there could be a bounce up, right? So that was what we talked about last week, right? And let's look at what has happened since then. Right, so this is an updated chart for Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, and with the updated week, right? So this updated week was actually here, right? So you can see that not much has changed, right? It is, still, it actually bounced up this first horizontal support, like this green candle, this light green candle, right? So that is a positive sign, right? It might indicate that this first horizontal support is a pretty strong support. Right, and on the shorter time frame, daily chart, we have the 50 SMA and the 200 SMA. Nothing has changed for this as well. 50 SMA is still less than the 200 SMA, right? And the gap has not narrowed, right? As you know, the gap is. The price is also still trading below both the 50 SMA and 200 SMA, right? So no change, right? Still indicating continued business in the mid to long term. RSI, right? So RSI wise, we did see a bit of a change, right? It was in the oversold region last week, right? Below that 30 RSI, right? But now it has bounced out oversold region, and he has crossed into above the RSI of 30. So that's the positive sign, and it also seems like it's turning up. MACD wise also saw some changes. Like last week we saw it's a negative, but this week it actually crossed over to the positive region. Right. So it has stayed positive, right? And we shall see what happened, this week. If you recall, right, last week we did talk about some suggested trading plans, right? So as a recap, right, this was what I mentioned. We could actually enter a long or short position depending on what we see. So if we, for a long entry, right, we could enter a long position if the first horizontal support at 17,500 is supported convincingly, right, with a cut loss slightly below this level. And we can take profit at the first, the first take profit price will be at RSI close to 50, or that first horizontal resistance, right, about 28K, whichever comes first. Second take profit price will be at the upper channel line corresponding to that downtrend line. And as for short, right, we could short if the prices rebound towards the upper channel line corresponding to the downtrend line and fails to break past it convincingly. So let's take a look, right, with those, what I mentioned just now, right? Which trading plan we have executed, right? So if you actually followed through closely, right, you might have actually entered a long position, right, on Sunday or Monday, right, at about 20,000, right, because we actually saw that that first horizontal support at 7,500 was supported convincingly, right? But it hasn't really hit our first take profit or second take profit price yet, so we might still be like currently about 7%, right, based on our current price, about of 21,400, right? So that's some good profits, right? We can even take profits now, even though it didn't hit that first take profit price, to earn that 7% gain. So I hope some of you have taken action and make some money from it as a result. So that has been the past week, right, for Bitcoin on the technical standpoint, right? But what does the future hold, right? I think that's what everyone will be interested in, right? What will the future hold, right, for Bitcoin? And now that we have seen the past, right, in the present. But before we delve deeper, right, at this juncture, again, I'd like to urge all of you, right, to give this video a like or a love, right, if you're sharing so far. All right, and let's delve deep into what will happen in the future. Right. So actually, I mentioned some tips earlier, right? So I shall now go into more details, right, on this. Right. So on the daily chart, first of all, right, we do have this downtrend line as well as the descending channel once again. Right. Not much has changed because last week it's been pretty stable, but it's been stabilizing at this level. So it is still trading within this descending channel as well as below that downtrend line. So what I point out to you, right, is that it is still in this downtrend, right? Prices are still forming a lower high and a lower low, right? Nothing has changed from that. It is technically still bearish, in the mid to long term. But it really depends on time. In the mid to long term, it's still bearish, but in the short term, right, there could be opportunity. There could be some bounce, right, in prices. So if you're a short-term trader, you might want to take the opportunity to capture that bounce. Right. The horizontal support, right, it is still, I see that it has successfully bounced up from this level, 17,500 to 17,600, right? So this is, can be seen as quite a strong support, right? So conversely, right, if this horizontal support actually breaks, right, we could be looking at lower support levels, and I think the immediate be that lower channel line at next support. Right, so if the price makes a bounce up, right, we could be looking at horizontal resistance levels, right, about 28,000 to 29,000, right, no change for that, somewhere around here. And if that breaks, right, we could be looking at higher resistance level at about 34K to 35K. Right. And if not, there'll be that upper channel line that might be tested as the next resistance level. Right. And on daily chart as well, the 50 SMA and 200 SMA, no change to this as well, right? The 50 SMA is still less than the 200-day SMA, gap is still big, price is still trading below both of them as of the moment. So there is that, so it's still a confirmation, right, that there is that bearishness in the mid to long term. Right, RSI, right? So it's what we mentioned just now, right? The RSI actually bounced out of the oversold region and it is turning up, right? So it is that it's an indication, right, that there could be a bounce in prices, right, in time to come. And it is fast approaching this level, this horizontal level, about RSI 45 to 50. Right? So there could be a further continuation of this movement towards this level, right? But if that doesn't hold, it might be headed for lower support levels. MACD, right? We saw just now that it had crossed over, right? So this is a positive trend and also another indication, right, that there could be a bounce in prices upwards, right? Right, and this is something new, right? This is actually on the shorter time frame, but on the 4-hour time frame. So I want to point this out, right, because this offers another perspective, right? So on this 4-hour time frame, right, we have this immediate resistance, immediate horizontal resistance level, as well as this short-term uptrend line. So you can see that the prices lately have been moving quite closely to either that horizontal resistance, and it's also still supported by this short-term uptrend line. So these are some levels to watch out for on the very short term, right? If it actually breaks above this immediate resistance, we could see a higher bounce in prices up, right? But if it breaks this short-term down uptrend line, it might actually fall back, might actually retrace back down, right? So that is something to watch out for, right? In time to come. Right. So with that, right, likewise, I have this suggested trading plan. But at this point, right, let's start to point out once again, right, do your own due diligence, right, and before you actually enter any trade. So likewise, right, we have a long and short entry idea here, right? For long, right, we could continue to enter long positions, right, if you haven't entered already, right? Right, if that immediate resistance that we pointed out just now actually breaks convincingly, you can add our positions, right? And we do have to see the price actually remains supported by that short-term uptrend line. So the first price is still the same, right, around the RSI of 45 to 50, or that first horizontal resistance, right, at 28K, whichever comes first. Second take profit is no change to that, right? Upper channel line corresponding to that downtrend line, right, over here. And as for short entry, I'll probably prefer to short when the prices are a bit higher, and when it's really proven, right, that it is convincingly resisted, right? So what I will do is that I will only enter a short position, which is to sell first and buy back later when the prices actually rebound towards the upper channel line, right, which is that downtrend line, and you have to see that it fails to break past it convincingly, right? If you want to have further confirmation, we can look at other indicators like the MACD, right? It has to turn negative or more negative as well, right? And that, is my quick analysis, right, for Bitcoin, right? Do let me know if you agree or disagree, right, with what I've mentioned, right? And once again, if you have found value in my sharing so far, right, don't forget to hit that like or love button, right, so that I know that you are enjoying my sharing and you're finding value so far. And for returning for the night, right, just some reminders down once again. Right, for those of you who join my Facebook group, you can consider joining my Facebook group. The handle is shown here, right? tte.the.trade.engineer. So, in my Facebook group, I do share other resources, right? And I also share about any other things related to trading, right? Not just crypto, but also stocks, futures, etc. But, do answer the membership questions, right, before clicking on the apply button. And for those of you who haven't followed me already, you can consider following me on my social media pages, right? On my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok channel. Right, the handles are shown here. Last but not least, right, if you like my sharing for tonight, don't forget to hit that like or love button, right? Yeah, so that the Facebook algorithm can push this out to more people, right? And do leave a comment down below, as well as share this video, right, with those people whom you think might benefit from this sharing, right? So once again, right, I hope all you have gleaned something useful from this sharing, and please stay safe, right? The market is still very volatile, especially in the cryptocurrency market. So stay nimble, stay safe, and do not take too much risk, right? And with that, right, I wish all you the best of luck in the upcoming week, and see you guys again next week, same time, right, and on the same channel, right, on this Facebook page or Facebook group, right? So see you guys and have a good night. Bye bye.